Okay, I just wanted to make this quick video. As you can tell, my hair is very messy and it's dark in my room because I woke up at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. It's like 8 a.m. now, but I wanted to make this video to give feedback, and I understand it's probably unwanted feedback, but I wanted to give this game some feedback because when I play these games, I play a lot of games for making coverage. I run into some issues where it's preventing me from wanting to play the game more. Now, honestly speaking, I may be a little bit burned out on gaming. I might be a little bit more impatient and pessimistic than others, but I think there's some value in that. If you can make me want to play the game, then most people would probably have an even better time. They might be more forgiving, but there's no harm in kind of polishing up the game. So for me, I'm going to be covering a game called Labyrinthatory, and it's a 2D puzzle game. And the main flaw that I see in this game is that it lacks a unifying mechanic and theme to the game. It's a puzzle game. Most puzzle games have, at the very least, well-made puzzles, and on top of that, there's usually a mechanic that is kind of memorable and fun to play with. So a lot of people think of Portal. Portal has the portal gun, and it's a very simple mechanic, but then they design the puzzles around that, and you can have a fun time, and they add layers by introducing different ways to interact with the portals. You can think of your own puzzle game. People might think of Myst. If you're older, those have very well-made puzzles. They're very disjointed, but the puzzles themselves are super well-made. So that's an example of a game lacking like a specific mechanic, but having really well-made puzzles. You can think of The Witness, that's kind of similar to Myst. There's Braid, and then for me, the more recent games are like Cocoon, The Talos Principle 2, and Viewfinder. Those are some examples of really great puzzle games with either underlying mechanics that are just throughout the whole game, or just puzzles are very well made, or both, right? So going back to Labyrinthatory, the game lacks any of that. Now, they may introduce like an underlying mechanic as the game progresses, but I've only played up to like an hour, I think, 30 minutes or so. And at that point, I no longer want to play the game. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad game, okay? I totally understand that the game was made with a lot of hard work and a lot of love. I felt it when playing the game. And I was having enough fun. But it was not enough fun where I would rather do something else, like I'd rather spend my time doing something else than playing this game. That's what it boils down to. Again, I understand that it takes a lot of work to make games. I try making games myself. It's very hard. Even to make a simple game, it's a lot of work. And I can see that a lot of love was put into the game. Like from each puzzle being made, you gotta code each puzzle, you gotta put it into the game, and then all the lines of dialogue, which are rather wholesome and contain a lot of referential humor. I understand that you have to write that. That takes a lot of time. You gotta think about it, right? So I get all of that, and I can appreciate it. But from the consumer standpoint, I think it's kind of lacking compared to other puzzle games. Like, why would I want to play this game over, Cocoon, right? Or any game, past, present, and future. My personal favorites are Superliminal and Filament. Filament has really well-made puzzles, and the mechanic is very unique, in my opinion. And they layer nuances on the mechanic and introduce new mechanics. Superliminal is a great example because whether you like the mechanic or not, whether you like the narrative or not, you can't really deny that the mechanic and the thematic elements of the narrative tied together very nicely. It's all about changing your perspective. Now, the narrative stuff might be a little bit corny, but I was at a rather low point in my life, and that game hit me really hard. You gotta change your perspective. I'm looking at the camera and my hair is very distracting. Oh well. Anyways, so Labyrinthatory feels very disjointed because in the very beginning when you play the puzzles, they're just like puzzles you played previously, and they're not really puzzles per se. I mean, you could say they are, but like you're playing Hangman, right? You're playing the logic game where like you have the people's name and then like Bob was not wearing a red sweatshirt, and then you put an X on the red sweatshirt, like and stuff like that. You know, you're playing like word puzzles, you know, and it's just like I did this when I was a kid, you know, so I already experienced it. So when I go into the game, it's like, oh, I already done this. I'm familiar with it. So there's no newness to it. There's no uniqueness. And secondly, it's all isolated. There's no underlying mechanic. So the puzzles are already borrowed from existing puzzles. So it doesn't feel like they're unique or well made. And then on top of that, there's no mechanic. There's no mechanic at all. Now they might introduce a mechanic later, but I didn't get far enough where like I wanted to keep playing the game, right? And then thirdly, there's no theme. So there's a story where your uncle passed away, and then during the funeral you receive a phone call from your uncle, and it's like, oh, my uncle's dead. How is this possible? And then you go, and then it's like they don't really reference that ever again. They might later on, but again, I didn't get far enough. So there's no tie into the narrative, and there's no tie into the theme. So I'm playing like in a corn maze, and there's some really corny jokes. Haha, yeah, you know, they did the amazing, grain, whatever. They had all the puns. That's great. But then it's like, why didn't you tie in the puzzles to the level design? Like, I'm not talking about changing the puzzles themselves. You can do something as simple as taking the hangman game and then making all the answers related to corn, you know, corn mazes, whatever, right? You can take the word puzzles and then make the answers related to corn, whatever, right? All the logic puzzles. There's no unification in any way. So what happens is the puzzles don't feel like they're united in any way. It's very disjointed. It feels very isolated. It feels like a series of mini games, and for that, it would have been better to make more fun games and then have nothing in between, because there's like a level that you have to play through and collect keys to get to the next level. That was my main criticism, because like I don't really care about the graphics too much. I get used to it. Another tip is, if you are not the best at drawing, pixel art is okay. So this game has pixel art. The pixel art looks fine. You get used to it. Everyone gives a pass on pixel art, because since it's so low res, like how do you mess it up, right? You get like 1 pixel for an eye. Like how do you mess it up, right? And then they have these more high res portraits, and it doesn't look that good. Like it looks like a student art project in junior high. Now, I don't mean that to be insulting, but like when you're comparing it to the art coming out right now in other games, like it's gonna stand out as subpar. I'm just speaking the truth. I understand too, as a game developer, a solo game dev, or an indie game dev, you don't really have money to hire artists, and you might not have the skill to draw all the art yourself. It's very time consuming to do that. So I get it. And all I can say is, you know, like an easy fix would have been to use the pixel art characters as the portraits themselves. That way everything looks simple, everything looks clean. You don't have to worry about it. Or just don't have portraits. Just have a text box. You don't need to have portraits. You know, there's like easy fixes you can do. And then as you get better at drawing, or as you make more money, you can hire better artists, right? That just kind of stands out. But yeah, going back to it, for a puzzle game, when I play it, I want to see the mechanic right away. Like, people have very short attention spans. If you don't hook them in right away, they're going to leave. So you want a mechanic that kind of ties together the whole game, apparent in the very beginning of the game. But yeah, anyways, that's going to be it. I might make more of these, I don't know, but I'll also understand a couple points. I don't expect people to listen to what I'm saying. I just want to get off my chest, alright? When I'm playing these games, I feel very frustrated, because it's just like, I'm trying to get to the core gameplay mechanic, and there's a lot of things getting in the way, right? Or if I do get to it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of lackluster, and I'm like, next game. I understand that, you know, no one has to listen to anyone, because I understand from the perspective of an artist, staying true to their vision and creating what they want. I get that. I respect that a lot. I do that all the time, where it's like, Look at my hair. Like I at least put a cap on, right? But I don't care. I don't care because all this is periphery. It's about the actual, what the content contains should be important, right? Not how it looks. But the reality is, if you want to keep creating as an artist, you also have to produce content that people will want to buy. Okay? Either that or like, I'm using buy in a relative term because in today's day and age, it's all about free online content, digital content, right? So you have to produce content people actually want to spend their time on. And I get that for my channel where I'm not really making videos that people want to watch, therefore my view count is low. It's just simple as that. I gotta make stuff people want to watch. I get that, okay? And it's kind of hypocritical for me to be giving feedback when I'm not taking the feedback myself. But that said, if you guys check my channel in the future, I may be producing more content pieces where I put more effort into it, and it might be something someone might want to watch. I get that, okay? Now, I'm putting more time and effort into that. After I finish my coverage queue, I'm going to move on to that because this takes up a lot of time and I could make it better. You know, there's always ways to make it better, but I want to make some other types of content. Anyways, I also understand too, like when you give feedback to a developer, especially an indie developer, I don't expect them to make those changes right away because they might not be able to. Like you have to have a certain skill level and level of experience and expertise. So it's more like as a note of what to keep in mind for future development, so that their next game, whatever they make, I hope it feels a little bit more unified and cohesive. Because the reality is, in order for you to make a product that someone might want to spend time on, it has to be better than their other options, right? And that doesn't come out of nowhere. It takes blood, sweat, and tears. It takes a lot of time and effort. It takes a lot of making mistakes and learning. So I get that. It's going to happen naturally, even if no one listens to me. But yeah, again, just the sole purpose of this video is to get things off my chest. Because as I'm playing the game, I'm like, this feels frustrating to play, Anyways, that said, I wish the developer best of luck on their journey. I think it's amazing they made a game and released it. I think everyone should applaud that because, man, go try making a game yourself. It's not going to be easy. I understand that. Yeah, but that's not an excuse for, a consumer to be like, oh, since this game was made by one person and they're new, that I should overlook any flaws or frustrations in the experience of playing the game. From the consumer side, it has to be something that they want to spend time on. And the consumer's perspective is the only one that matters because the consumer is the one giving you their time and money. It's not like when they're playing a game and they're like, oh, this game was made by one person. Oh, you know what? I used to hate it, but now I like it, right? That doesn't happen. Okay. That's going to be it. I might make more of these. I might not. I just make stuff whenever I feel something. So my channel is a mixture of games coverage and any other random video I make, other than guides, whatever. Is like whenever I feel something, I want to make content on it because I feel dead inside. So, it's kind of like an effort to reclaim some of my emotions, I guess. I don't feel much anymore. It's just, I don't know, a giant numbness. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time.